Sure, our mics are on. Mine was not. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting. It's October 2nd at 6 p.m. We have a Board of Commissioners meeting set. I have a stack of public comment cards here. And I had set a notice of show cause hearing meeting at 6:15. But it looks like, based on the number of public comments, we might go past that. So we'll have our Board of Commissioners meeting, and then when that is over, we'll move into our show cause meeting. So please be patient with us tonight. We will begin the meeting. I'll call it to order now, and we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up on our agenda is the amendment and approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
No.
I have one. I'd like to add on the consent agenda, rural addressing duties being transferred to the surveyor's office. That could be G. That'd be good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
So that's under consent agenda, G?
addressing.
Yeah.
That's who's doing it, basically, Ted?
Right. It'll be transferred to the surveyor's office
Yep. So the surveyor will be doing it instead of,
instead of, I think it's building planning right now.
okay. Any other amendments?
Mr. Chair, I got a conflict for the next meeting on the 17th.
Okay.
I got to go to my mother-in-law's getting a new hip, so I'm going to be traveling to Bend on the 17th. So,
Wednesday? The 16th?
well, I think Jay might have a conflict on Wednesday. Do you have a cross-country?
I don't think so. I don't know.
And I know you got a evening conflict, but we could do if we did a earlier Wednesday, Wednesday afternoon meeting. I'm good.
Oh, I have a school board meeting Wednesday. That's my
Wednesday night.
Yeah, Wednesday
But
night.
if we did a 3 or 4 o'clock meeting,
On Wednesday?
would that work?
What time would we need to do that so you could attend both meetings?
It would have to be like at 2 o'clock, just to make sure I could
Yeah.
get there in time.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'll be traveling on Thursday, so
Okay. So,
if you
yeah,
guys are
we can move that, I think.
okay.
So we'll move our next BOC meeting based on your conflict to Wednesday, the 16th at 2 p.m.
Perfect.
We'll put that notice out well in advance.
Thank you.
All right. Any other amendments?
No, sir. I'll move approval as amended.
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Say yes. Yes.
Yes.
And yes, motion passes 3-0. And next up on our agenda is service awards. Jay?
Perfect. So, if we could have the Travises come up. Amanda and Tyler. So, oh, right over here. Yes. Hey, Tran. I just wanted to acknowledge last month's Curry County Citizens of the Month was Amanda and Tyler Travis, and I want to highlight a few things. The people that are the foundations of our community are often the people who don't get noticed. They always say like 10% of the people do 90% of the stuff within the community. And if that's the case, then these two double it. So these two individuals not only run the Brookings youth activities for basketball, which is an incredible commitment, but they are also on the board for Little League, and Tyler coaches in all of the sports as well. So their commitment to youth activities and youth involvement and the community as a whole. I mean, they're doing it year round. It's not just seasonal for them, and so I think it's well worthy to acknowledge that and thank them for all that they do for the county.
There's some Operation folks. Thank you. There's some Operation folks just walked in.
Yes, and there's going to be an enormous amount of people. So if you got practice, you have volleyball practice. Amanda coaches volleyball as well, so she has volleyball practice.
Thanks, guys, for all you do.
Thank you.
See you,
Very
Tran.
much appreciated.
Bye, Tran. See you guys. The second award. They're not available tonight, but I thought we would recognize them, and then we'll get this to them as well. But it's Brett and Marie Curtis from Remax, Coast and Country. They do an enormous amount for the community as well. Most recently, heading up the fundraising efforts for Caitlin's Cause, which is a cause that it's a local cause. And our former chief of police in Brookings leads that up. Lost a daughter to cancer, and they have put their efforts into trying to make it better for kids who are at Dornbeckers. And so what they've done is they put together this charity, and 100% of all of the money raised goes straight to those kids. And what they do is they try to make their stay with smiles. And so they go and they buy them, toys and things to do, and they try to make the stay while they're there as pleasant as obviously it can be. And so they just headed up a 3-day golf tournament as a charity for that for that organization, and they also do a lot just for the community in terms of community pride. They're always involved in all of the parades and marketing the area, and they're just they're working hard for the community. So I will deliver this to them this week.
Chamber of Commerce, I know Marie's really involved in.
Yes, and that was having to rebuild the chamber after it kind of dissipated several years ago. So
Yep, awesome. All right, much appreciated. And now we'll move forward into general public comments. And before we get started, I want to say I have 11 slips tonight. So quite a few people speaking. I would ask that everybody keep their comments to 3 minutes. Jay's got the buttons here. We've got the lights up at the podium. So when you make your comment, please be cognizant of your 3-minute window. If you start to go over, then I'll let you know and ask you to wrap it up when you can. It's very important what you have to say. We definitely want to hear from you. I would ask that you be respectful of our staff. You can yell and scream at us all you want, but staff works really hard to put these meetings on, and we're all stretched pretty thin right now. So I would just ask you to be respectful of them. So first up tonight in our public comments is, and forgive me if I get your name wrong. Sometimes I can't read these the names well, but is Buddy? Am I saying that right? Yeah, we can just hand you
get
the
that mic to-
microphone and do that.
Ted's on it.
regarding the hearing?
No.
I don't think so. They live up South Bank.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yep.
All right, I'm Buddy Wright, and I live way up the river, Checo River, the most beautiful place in the world. And we've been inundated in the last, a month? It's been a long time. And all my neighbors plus me, so 6, 8, 10 of us have uh, called the police, fire department, everybody else. They've got 4 30-foot trailers down there, 6, 7 cars, and there is no firefighting equipment there. There's no water. There's no trash for them to use. It's like they're outlaws. We don't know it for sure, but it's not a pretty sight, and no one seems to come forward and take responsibility. And I understand that we're a little short on the police side of it, but we could give them a $2,500 ticket and say that you've got 10 minutes to get out of town, or for a couple of hours. And then if they ever come back, then we assess them. And that ticket would go on their driver's license via the judge and the sheriff's department. Make sure people like that don't squat on the public land. It's ugly down there. If you would take a ride down there, you'd see what I was talking about. It's huge. So all of my neighbors, we've got a lot invested in all of our properties. If they started a fire and it went out of control, then who's responsible? Because we've talked to authorities. So now if we had to bring suit, it would have to be, we'd have to sue the county or because we don't have a lot of law enforcement right now. So we think it's something that you might want to help us with as neighbors. So thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, buddy. And I've noticed the same problem up Carpenterville Road, same issues, and then some other places in our county, and I've been talking to other people in the community about similar problems, but thank you for that.
Just in conjunction, I just received a call from a gentleman who has a business up South Bank, also having, the same similar complaints. And we did hold a public safety meeting recently to try to address some of this. And the DA has notified that he will prosecute for trespass. Since the Johnson versus Grants Pass case was repealed by the Supreme Court, which basically allowed a lot of that camping initially, and now so it is not allowed, and so it can 100% be held accountable. And so I think we have to keep looking for the ability to hold them accountable.
I just have one update. I went up there last week and looked at it, but in the meantime, my office had been working with the DA and with the sheriff's office to make sure that the notices that we have, there's a trespass ordinance, and then there's a separate ordinance. 72-hour notice to vacate. So we wanted advice and input from the DA on that before we move on that. Those have been delivered to the sheriff's office, and I believe my assistant sent out a reminder to I think it was Lieutenant Ensley earlier today, I believe, to follow up on that, and then we can proceed forward. But I've been up there, and I've been getting calls from a lot of the people up there, Joel Bravo, and it's very disturbing, and it's also right next to the water, and it's a big pollution problem. It's a real problem on many levels. And I also hear that the traffic up there now is very steady. Seems to be some new commerce going on up there, so that would be another reason to get law enforcement involved.
Well, and I will add that the individual who called me also volunteered that they would donate the material needed to create another, basically block off the pullout, a barrier. They would be willing. They had a bunch of runoff material that they would be willing to donate to. Once we get everybody, moved on, then they would be willing to donate that material.
It just would
choose
be
to do
nice
it.
to develop a plan so that we can actually, so that the public can use those
Right.
those right of ways.
So we're not all cut off.
I know I myself, when I was in high school, I broke down right there more than once in my vehicle. So, I mean, that's a place that the public should be able to use.
All right, thank you for that, buddy. Next up is Margot.
Dick Wilson's gonna take my time because he knows more about this.
Okay, Dick Wilson, Dick, you're next up on my list anyway.
Well, it's kind of funny. I'm standing here and I have two former students up there that are opposing me.
We would never oppose you, Dick.
Well, I don't know. Right now, I'm really concerned about, and Margot and I have talked about this, the commissioners seem to be opposed to our county sheriff. The county sheriff's elected by the people. You commissioners are elected by the people to do your job. He's elected to do his job with no interference by you people. And it seems like you guys want to do the job. That's what it seems like. Everything that I've had, I've listened to all your tapes here lately. And one meeting concerning the dog, which I'll be talking about in just a little bit, the whole 45 minutes you could see all the animosity between the commissioners against the sheriff. It's that way. This first meeting I've been to, but it's not going to be the last. There's just no excuse. For one thing, always before we've had road funds for the sheriff's department. And I can remember when that road funds was up to $40 million. I don't know what it is now, but I tell you one thing, public safety is more important than roads. And so you ought to consider putting that road money back in, but right now you don't want to do it. You want to control the sheriff. And the only way you can control him, you don't give him the dollars. Those dollars work for the county officers. I'll let you know that probably none of you know it. In the mid-'70s, we didn't pay property taxes in Oregon for 3 straight years. Curry County residents did not pay taxes on their property, except cities. You know why? None of you know why?
I know.
My dad was a commissioner, and I know.
They were
No,
too fast.
we'd had too much, the county commissioners had more money than they knew what to do with. So what they did is just, we didn't pay any property taxes. But you know what happened? The Spotted Owl did that, okay? But something's got to be done with you guys starting, acting right, and treating the sheriff right. I've known the sheriff for over 20 years, and he's always been a good guy. Any comments back? I'd like to hear them.
I thought you were going to say something about the dog.
I'll do that one my time.
Oh, okay.
I was speaking for Margot.
Okay.
That's what we discussed, and that's what she wanted me to talk about.
Okay.
Well, Dick, your time is next, so if you want to move right into that, you can.
Okay? Well, thank you. Okay. When I was 23 years old, and that was 60 years ago, and that makes me 83, my father-in-law sat me down and he said, Dick, the older you get, the more you're going to hate your government for the stupid-ass things that they do. And you think about what our federal government does and our state government, and now it appears that our county government is doing the same thing. I'm a strong supporter of the K-9 program. I've given money for 2 K-9 dogs here at $14,000 apiece. I gave money for a drug dog at the police department in Brookings. And the day I found out we don't have a K-9 program here anymore. And again, relating back, it was that same meeting that you spent 45 minutes on a $14,000 dog. And what's the county budget? I tried to find out today from the Treasury Department and the county clerk, and I couldn't get the answer. I figured it was around $50 million. You have any idea?
Keno?
It's around 58 million.
So I was pretty close. And we're spending 45 minutes on a $14,000 dog that I donated. You guys didn't spend a dime on it, did you? And I even donated at different times to help feed the dog. I've got a sheet here. Hope it don't fall down. Addressed to Zane, I don't know if you got it, from the dog handler over in Josephine County.
Here, I'll take them.
That'll be, you can read that afterwards. But our dog is in good condition, according to this person that trains dogs. Now, Josephine County paid the full fee to have that dog trained. And for some reason, on the 8th day, that Josephine County Sheriff decided not to proceed any further. I have a strong feeling that someone here from the commissioner's office or someone associated with it called to try to get that dog done away with from the Josephine County, because the sheriff sent him over there. The sheriff talked to me when you guys got through with, and I've lost my train of thought, asked me what I'd like to have done with the dog. And I said, all I want him to do is work. I don't want him put down. I don't want him to be a pet. I want him to work. And so that's why he went over to Josephine County. And come to find out, he's back now. Where? I don't know. I have a suspicion where he is. And I'd like to know, did you have a public meeting to decide on what happened to this $14,000 dog? Or what did you do, just have someone give him away? What happened?
Is this where you
No,
want?
I'm asking
Okay.
you guys, what happened?
I'll give you the full story, all right, Mr. Wilson? This is how it went down. June 11th, the sheriff came in here and said, hey, I am short in my budget to have a canine deputy. I'm $6,000 short. What can you guys do? Immediately on the spot, the three commissioners all voted to give up their salaries to pay for that. So we were invested as well. Okay? That was June 11th. So that was the end of that. Budget passed. Then on July 28th, we were informed that Darvit had already been fostered over in Josephine County. We weren't informed. There was no public meeting.
Oh, hold it. I gave that dog to the sheriff's office. I didn't give it to you guys. I'd have never given it to you guys.
No. You gave the money to purchase the dog to the county.
I wrote the check out to the sheriff's department.
Right, so those are county assets that the commissioners are in charge of, just like a vehicle or anything else. So at that time, I pointed out that it would have been best if the canine would have stayed in Curry and served one of our partner agencies, BPD, Gold Beach PD, whatever, because the county, not only you had invested.
I told him, if someone in the county wanted it, fine, but there's no one in the county that wants it. I talked to the sheriff's.
So that.
Police department, they're not ready yet.
Well, that at the time, that wasn't necessarily true, right? So so we were told at that time, the sheriff informed us, he described the dog as a dirty dog that lacked in training, and that's why he gave it to Josephine County. That prompted us to have an internal look into what the canine had been involved in, what cases the canine had been involved in, because that was red flags for litigation, and in the training that he referred to. July 31st, so 3 days later, we were informed that BPD did have interest in the canine. Commissioner Alcorn asked if we could keep the canine in Brookings, and the Sheriff Ward responded, "I do not agree with that. The dog needs to be in Josephine County." Commissioner Alcorn then stated, "Shouldn't it be an option to keep the canine in Curry County?" The sheriff responded by stating, "The dog is in Josephine County, and that's where it needs to stay." Commissioner Alcorn then stated, "My position is that the canine can save a life and is an asset of the county. BPD has been handling many of our calls in Harbor, and this would be a great asset to remain in the county with BPD. I would like BPD to have a chance to evaluate the canine and choose to take it on and keep him in the county." The sheriff stated that it needs to stay in Josephine County and that we can call anytime the canine is needed. Commissioner Alcorn then said, "Yes, but BPD is right here." So discussions then happened with BPD. After hearing the sheriff describe Darvit as a dirty dog and needing training, they felt it was too much of a liability to take on. So at that point, we drafted an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, with Josephine County, and they took possession of Darvit. Then what you're referring to is,
Now, what did you say there?
so after BPD said they didn't want to take on the liability,
No, I talked to him the same day you talked to him, the police department in Brookings.
okay. So after that, we drafted a memorandum of understanding with Josephine County to keep the dog, releasing our liability, so no longer fostering, right? Then recently, what you're referring to, we got notice that Josephine County no longer wanted to continue to try to train the dog, identifying him as untrainable, and they needed to rehome him.
Read that letter right there from the training people over there, and that's not
This is what we were informed of
not true if you'll read that letter.
from the sheriff of Josephine County. This is what we were informed of. And so he said, we need to rehome the dog. So at that point, we said, well, we can reach out to the former handler and see if the dog can remain with the handler.
Now, wouldn't common sense tell you, if I gave a dog to you guys, that you might ask me if I wanted the dog? Wouldn't common sense tell you that? But common sense doesn't exist here. So you guys have really upset me with this dog. Can you tell?
Well, so Mr. Wilson, what I'm trying to say is we did everything we could. Now, when we get into the specifics of what was happening during the training or what wasn't happening, and that the dog hadn't been certified, and that Hulk also was in a bad situation in terms of certification, and none of the records had been kept, that the dogs were not being properly trained,
I just talked to Zane this afternoon on that.
and,
That's not what I understand.
well, we've requested all of the training records and we've received none.
That I don't know.
So that's where we stand. Commissioner Alcorn obviously helped stand up that program, so he has more knowledge on it than I do. But as far as going backwards
My
and
plan all the time was to support the canine program as long as I lived. Guess what? I won't do another damn thing
well,
in the
and
county on anything.
I
I'll be
understand.
that upset, okay?
But what I'm saying is we did everything we possibly could to keep that dog. We didn't know the dog had been moved. We didn't know the dog had been transferred to Josephine County after we gave up our salaries to keep the dog here. We weren't informed of that. So I was pissed too. Super pissed.
And Mr. Wilson, I've got an investment too. For 4 years, I gave my time each week to the sheriff's office to train those dogs. I never missed a training, Mr. Wilson. I was there every Wednesday for the day with those dogs and those handlers. And we, you and I, and the guys, the first handlers, Teeter and Rochelle, the guys that started that program, we worked hard to really build that program. And at one time, Mr. Wilson, we had a program that when we had training, I had 10 or 12 guys there. I had Crescent City PD, I had Del Norte County, I had Brookings
I
PD.
strongly believe it. I think every canine is worth 2 officers.
It 100%. It's a force multiplier, and that program had built up to a point that it was being recognized by other counties and other places, and we were doing some incredible things, and the dogs were being used and benefiting our community. They were each week we were getting deployments, and it was incredible, absolutely incredible. And then I decided I could be of more value. I ran for commissioner to get funding for the sheriff's office. And after that, what happened? What happened to the program? What happened to it? How did we go from that to having a dog that was described as a dirty dog that was untrainable? How did that happen?
I think if you read that letter again, you find out they didn't say it was a dirty dog.
No, the sheriff said that.
The sheriff said that. And
In the public meeting,
when he said it, it also labeled the dog, which put
a liability.
It put some liability on the dog. And when other departments were considering the dog, and the sheriff had said this was a dog that didn't have adequate training and was a dirty dog, they were concerned. And rightfully so. But we had a dog that, and I know Darvit was certified in May of 2023, which meant his certification would have run out in May of 24, and that would have meant that he would have been working at the sheriff's office from that time until Deputy King retired, and he wasn't certified. How's that possible?
I don't keep the records, but I will know.
And I want to talk about the records too for a minute. I want to talk about the records because when one employee left the sheriff's office, they made some very specific complaints to me.
Mr.
And-
King?
Yep,
Well, it's funny. He's my renter. I built a 6-foot-high fence for that dog that you probably don't know about because I knew he was taking care of the dog. So I wanted him to have a place to be in the backyard. 6-foot-high fence. I can't remember what it cost me. It didn't make any difference. I wanted him to have a
Right.
place to be. So
right. And so we got some information that the mandated training wasn't taking place, that the certifications weren't, the dogs weren't certified, and very specific things. So it's your money that's paying for that. It's the people of this county's money that's also paying for it because they're paying the premium pay to the deputies, and we're paying for some of the peripheral costs associated with it. And so as a person who's sitting in a position that is responsible to that, I simply ask questions. I just ask to see the training records and the certifications. And I've asked, and I've asked, and I've asked.
and Mr. King that would have been taking care of all these training.
Well, Mr. Wilson, the way the training records work is we pay for a system called PackTrack. I set it up before I left. And in that system, it's a computer program. You get in there and you first of all, you go out on the radio and you say, Deputy 1, put me out at this location, canine training. And there's a computer automated dispatch report that shows me out training. And then there's a canine coordinator who is now Deputy Van Zelf, who took my place, and that canine coordinator sets up the training. And in that training, you'll have an agitator, somebody in a bite suit, you're familiar with that, and then you'll have some safety monitors there that are making sure the area is safe and nobody's going to wander into the training and accidentally get bit. And then you'll have a series of things that are set up to coordinate the training of the dog. So you'll have maybe some obedience, maybe some bite work, maybe some release work, some other stuff. And then the canine coordinator is keeping track of a log of all of that. And then at the end of the training, you enter that into PackTrack, the computer system, and it creates a log of that. That way, when the deputy has to go to court, he can just get on that computer, he can print it out, he can take all that stuff to court with him. Or he can give it to a detective that's investigating a case. Well, we're paying for that. And when I left, no one used it. There were no records in there. And every time you deploy the dog, and I'm not just talking about sending the dog after a fleeing suspect to bite them, I'm talking about making the dog bark to de-escalate a situation, or arriving on a call and getting your dog out to check the perimeter of a building where there might have been a burglary, or canine demonstrations, that kind of thing. We fill out a form that shows that's a deployment. There were no deployments. The dogs hadn't been used at all. How could that be? How could that have happened?
I'm not there.
And that's why I asked,
Provide the funds.
and Mr. Wilson, that's why I asked the questions I did. I wanted to know. I wanted to know what is going on with the program that we were so invested in. And that's why I was asking those questions.
More because you guys have done away with it.
We didn't do away with it.
Our money, our
I called someone today, and she told me that we don't have a.
We don't have a canine program, but that's not because I'd like every deputy we have to have a dog. We don't have enough.
We actually said that.
I said that in a
every
meeting,
dep-
Mr. Wilson.
If every deputy had a dog, the deputy would be more powerful. None of us have done away. In fact, we're still financially committed to the canine unit.
I found out the canine unit had been dissolved from Sheriff Ward in an email in August, and that was when I was requesting these records, and I was requesting the certifications, and I wasn't getting them, and Sheriff Ward said that he was going to retire Hulk and suspend the program. And think about this for a minute, Mr. Wilson. We got rid of Hulk, but we had Darvit. And how come, I asked Sheriff Ward, would canine handler Van Zelf consider taking Darvit? And he said no.
Well,
Dick, I know that nobody on this board talked to this lady and said anything.
that's a letter that she wrote saying that the dog is a dog worth continuing in training to be a canine dog. Is that not what it says?
Yeah,
Okay.
We didn't get that correspondence.
yeah. This is the first time.
Now, I will tell you, Mr. Wilson, that early on, when I found out that the dog was in Josephine County, I didn't know anything about that. I found out the dog was in Josephine County. I called the vendor. I called Emma, and I talked to her, because I don't know anything about this dog. I've never met the dog, never seen the dog. I didn't work with the dog. I was gone well before the dog was put into service. And she told me that the dog had struggled to be certified in training, and that they were hesitant to certify the dog, but they did with the understanding through Deputy King that he would come back for maintenance training each month, and that they could closely monitor how the dog was doing with training. But they told me that Deputy King never came back for training. And when they asked him why, Deputy King told them, and again, this is what they told me, Deputy King said that the sheriff wouldn't let him. And they said, is it a cost issue? And Deputy King said, I don't know. And they said, we'll do it for free. They were willing to do that for free. And again, they were told that Deputy King asked the sheriff, and the sheriff said no, he wasn't going to give him the time to do it. Now, that would be reflected in the records that I asked for. And I'm trying to confirm or deny what actually happened.
Well, see, I don't know that. All I know is I've got a dog somewhere that shouldn't be where he is.
Well, what I know is we worked very hard to build a very strong program here, and that program served our community well, and that program protected our officers and our deputies in our county. And now it's gone.
Well, it was that way 20 years ago. We had a good canine program 20 years ago. And because of overtime, they did away with it.
This wasn't because of overtime.
No, I'm just saying.
Right.
Well, now it's because there's no deputies. That's the basic thing right now. You got three, what do you got, 3 deputies?
I honestly don't know the total number of deputies because there's been a lot of changes and the sheriff won't come and tell us. He won't come and talk to us.
But I want to answer your first set of questions as well, Mr. Wilson, if you wouldn't mind. And so, you know, I went back and did some research today, and
I know my son-in-law got two phone calls after I got off with your secretary or whoever I talked to. All of a sudden, he had two phone calls.
Natasha, and so I will say this. This conversation, so this is where it went south with the sheriff, is when we were having conversations about the K-9 unit and keeping it in Curry. That's and the sheriff was upset that we were stepping in and trying to keep it in Curry as opposed to allowing him to just give it to Josephine without any acknowledgement or any discussion. Now, one of the first things I did say is, did anybody talk to Mr. Wilson? Because as far as I know, Mr. Wilson has donated the money for most of these canines. So that was one of the first questions I did ask.
Well, he did talk to me.
Yes, and he said in our meeting on July 29th, he said, I talked to Mr. Wilson a month ago. Well, a month ago would have been about this.
I have no, you know.
No, I'm just saying, I understand. I'm just quoting what was in the video and what he said a month ago. Well, a month ago would have been right when the budget was being approved. After asking us to give up our salaries for the dog, he said he was calling you to see if you were okay with him getting rid of it. Now, that was a different kind of confusion, and that's one that I have to absorb. But the point is your first statements were that we need to leave the sheriff alone. But you're coming in to ask the questions that we were asking that led to the sheriff not wanting to work with us anymore.
Wanting to know where the dog is.
I understand. So did we. We didn't
Where's the
know.
dog?
We didn't know.
Where is the dog?
The dog is with Tim King.
Why is he there? Did you have a meeting to disperse him, or did just
We did.
one person send him over?
No. We had a public meeting.
Didn't see it on tape.
It's on tape. We had a public meeting. We had a discussion. We had to do an agreement.
Again, common sense tells me, why in the hell didn't you contact me to see if I wanted the dog so I could send it to another place? Why didn't you do that? You gave away $14,000 of my money.
No, we did not.
Oh, the hell you didn't.
No,
It's with,
that dog was given away without our knowledge. All we did was when Josephine County called and said, hey, we're not wanting to keep the dog. Do you have a place for the dog? That's when we said, well, let us call the handler. So we didn't give the dog away. The dog was given away without us us knowing the dog was given away. That was what led to these questions. We had just given up our salaries to keep the dog, and then we find out after the dog has been given away that the dog has been given away. So we were raising the same questions that you're raising today. But in your first statements, you were telling us that we shouldn't be asking these questions. And I hope that we are asking the appropriate questions. And here's the thing.
here's the thing that I see right now. The sheriff and you three will never agree.
So
Look, from what I've seen on the tapes, you guys are so against the sheriff, and of course, you beat down the guy so long, he's not going to respond to you. He's going to tell you, take a hike.
So let me ask you.
It takes cooperation between you and the sheriff.
Okay, but you came in here and you asked us tough questions, right? You asked us tough questions, and we're answering them. And so none of us is trying to tell the sheriff how to do his job. All we're doing is asking the sheriff how the job is being done. And I think that's that's what the public deserves. The questions that I'm asking, I'll tell you the questions I'm asking. The questions that I have been asking are simple.
I'm a simple man.
What metrics were used to establish a patrol schedule that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 6? Because as far as I know, a lot of the crimes that are real bad, domestic violence, that kind of stuff, happens in the evenings.
I agree.
How could could an alternate schedule be provided? How many calls are being received and how many of them are being responded to? How are we experiencing an increase in crime? Are we handling our mutual aid agreements with our partners? How are we handling those? What can people expect going forward? Just like the gentleman here first asked, what crimes will be responded to? Which ones will not be responded to but be investigated? And which ones will probably likely not be followed up on? I think that those are pretty rational questions that I think the public should have an answer to. Now, I've been emailed and CC'd on emails that have gone to the sheriff, and then I follow up with the individual to say, hey, did he ever get back to you on your questions? The answer has been no. So I do believe that it is in our public interest to have these questions answered.
And Mr. Wilson, I have not once told the sheriff what to do. I've made recommendations. I've tried to help. I've tried to make suggestions. I've tried to say, hey, I've been a cop for 34 years too, and these are some things that have worked. This is some staffing reorganizations that could be helpful. And I've got to tell you too, after this whole canine stuff happened, I had people in the community asking me hard questions like, how could we have a dog out in the field that wasn't certified or training? Where's the supervision? What's going on? And asking me those hard questions. And that's why I asked for the canine records and the certification records. And by the way, we still haven't got them. And we've made a public information request that's, I don't know, it's like 4 weeks old. And he still hasn't even acknowledged.
There's a big conflict, and it's going to affect the people.
It already is.
It is.
It already is. And here's at the end of the day.
Another thing.
Yeah.
Public safety is more important than roads, more important than anything in this community. If we don't have public safety, we're going to have chaos.
Right. And so
Everyone's going to start carrying a gun like I have.
you may or may not be caught up on this part. We put $1.2 million of road funds into patrol.
How much money's in the road department right now?
17 million.
Well, 16.
16 and change.
So, yeah.
15 million?
No, 16.
16?
Yeah.
To be 40, you said.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, this is the position that I'm in. Either to solve this, either we stop asking questions or the sheriff comes in and starts answering them. Now, one of us is being asked to do our job and the other one's not.
Well, something has to happen. Maybe you need an arbitrator.
All we need is a conversation. All we need is
With common sense.
a conversation and a willingness to work together and answer some questions. And I'm sure that there's questions
You're
that
telling me right now that dog wasn't given to Tim King. You guys still have control of him.
No, the dog was given to Tim King.
Given to him means it's his dog.
Correct. Yes, and I apologize.
Why in the hell did you not?
Yeah, like I said,
Why in the hell did you do that?
one of my first questions,
No common sense at all.
was, did anybody consult with you? And the sheriff responded that he had talked to you a month ago. That was prior to giving it or when he gave it to Josephine County. Now, I will apologize. It should have been a common courtesy to say,
Hell, yes, it should have been.
so that I can take ownership of that, 100%. You know, had I known, because I did ask, I did have Skip reach out to you, to see if you knew that the dog was being given to Josephine County.
See, this is the problem. I give a lot of money to my high school because they do everything that I asked them to do. They do it. I will give no more to any organization. I'm through.
Well,
So
I hope.
it's too bad. The thing is, you people need people giving, and you had those people giving time today. You need that.
Absolutely.
But, you know, as I said, I'll just finish with one statement, what my father-in-law told me. The older you get, the more you will hate the government for the dumbass moves they make. I'm through.
All right, next up, Michelle Martin.
Michelle Martin.
Hi, I am Michelle Martin, and I am a member of the Citizens for Curry Justice on Facebook. We are supporting the sheriff, and if anybody would like to join us, you can look at us. We're not the opposition, and we are not the enemy. The authority of the county sheriff. The county sheriff is a constitutional officer elected by we the people. The elected county sheriff serves primarily as a protector of the people's God-given rights as secured by the United States Constitution. The elected county sheriff also serves as both the county public safety officer and as the highest ranking peace officer for the county in which the sheriff has jurisdiction. The duties and authorities of the elected county sheriff are established and granted under mandates by the United States Constitution and also by the Oregon State Constitution, not by ORS statutes, the BOC, nor the county operations manager. It is greatly misconceived, and many elected servants are wrongly informed, that the common law has been done away with in order for legislatures to become masters over the people, rather than legislatures remaining the servants of and for the people. As a chief police officer and chief public safety officer, the sheriff's accountability is to we, the people, and not to the county BOC, nor at the discretion of the county operations manager. The elected sheriff is not the county-appointed chief code enforcement officer, and thus not under subjection or by or for the BOC and their appointed county servants. The current level of dysfunction within the county governing body, primarily that between the sheriff's office and the BOC, can in large be attributed to ranking individuals within the county governing bodies apparently have misunderstanding of the separate duties, responsibilities, and authorities given independently to each constitutional elected officer by the federal and state constitutions. None of these elected officers have been given the authority to usurp the established duties and responsibilities of others. We, the people, did not vote BOC members into office to undermine the authority and responsibilities of our elected county sheriff by aggressively micromanaging his department and staff, nor to personally harass, attack, and insult the current Sheriff John Ward himself. The authority and responsibilities assigned to the BOC are clear, and its promises that each of you campaigned upon. You are budgeted for and obtain the necessary financial resources required by the Sheriff's Department to provide all mandated civil and public services 24/7 and 365 days a year. The people are speaking out and insisting that you manage your own affairs and own up to your responsibilities. I'd like to add to this, have any of you, I love that you recognized people in our community. That is outstanding. I love that. Have you emailed our Sheriff John Ward and thanked him for his services? He was 10 years as elected sheriff as of yesterday. Have you emailed him and recognized him for the rescue of a 3-year-old autistic child? He put resources together because he doesn't have any. So he reached out to the communities, Port Orford, Brookings, Gold Beach. Neighbors all came together and found this child. He found the child. Have any of you even recognized him as doing this? I'll leave it at that. Again, we're on Facebook. Please look at us. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Bay.
seen you around. How are you? I have that right here. Look at this. I think it's the one you gave me a long time ago.
Thank you.
I'm gonna need 3 minutes, 15 seconds, please. Thank you. Seems to me the federal government has pushed the narrative in today's society that has normalized presumption in the written word, arming a narrative through the power of social media and discounting the value of an eye-to-eye, genuine engagement for the better of the people they are elected to represent. I've attempted to trace and understand how we find ourselves in the predicament we are currently with regard to public safety in Curry County. Being a person who has historically kept law enforcement at arm's length, my experience as a citizen in Curry County has been one that I know I'm not alone in. Learning of our sheriff and his credibility in the eye of the public grew my curiosity as to who he was and what he was about. I monitored his priorities, his passion, his leadership. I was all in. Every opportunity I found to support the community through the efforts of Sheriff Ward in building solidarity, I wanted a part of. The search for Mr. Higgins, the harbor sinkhole, the Chetco bar fire, pandemic. I knew our community was in the safe, capable, and trusted hands of Sheriff Ward. Our sheriff has prioritized public safety in Curry County for 33 years. He's been consistent, reliable, and committed. On call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all day, every day. When significant cuts of almost 50% to its department and services, it's no wonder Sheriff Ward is working harder now than he ever has. Middle of the night calls, road patrol, writing reports. Sheriff Ward is focused on his elected duties. What I admire most about Sheriff Ward is his ability to stay focused and not be deterred by the antics and public display of flagrant disrespect given him through this board and this council. The word salad of justifications and fishing for topics to enrage the public is, in my opinion, the most unprofessional thing I've ever witnessed. And to be quite honest, it's embarrassing. Each one of you has publicly committed to the priority of public safety. However, you have no more experience or wisdom in how best to execute that work than our own sheriff. Many of us have been asking if this is the red herring to deflect from the obvious that none of you are working on funding, despite it being your responsibility and self-proclaimed mantra. Your actions are speaking louder than your words. The blame is on everyone else but yourselves. We are not the opposition, and we are not the enemy yet. As a citizen concerned for the financial stability of law enforcement in Curry County, I implore you to negate the gaslighting and evaluate how your actions are perceived by the public. We stand to the sheriff, and we will not waver in seeing justice served. Got one more thing. You all wonder why the sheriff won't contact you, but he contacts 4,000 other people in this county? It's you guys. I can contact him. He responds to me. The common denominator. Thank you for your time.
Next up, former Commissioner Pash.
Good evening. I want to start this out. I'm not here to pick on anybody. I want to start this out with conviction. Brad, when you and I met and we started talking, you stood on the platform of doing everything you could do to fund the sheriff's department. You stood in front of the public and you said, my whole job as being a commissioner is focused on funding the sheriff's department. And again, I'm not here to pick on people. All I know is it's not getting done. And I can humbly disagree with what you've done to the sheriff's department. I believe that the road fund should have been used. And, you know, there are ways to find different ways to fund the sheriff's department. And I have brought up a couple of ideas that I've seen some eyes roll. But there are a couple of ways that we could fund the sheriff's department. And I just want to say that the road funds should be being used now. And until you find that way to fund the sheriff's department. I don't know if you watched the debate last night. You had a candidate say that if they're elected, which was the Trump campaign, they are going to immediately look to find new housing in this nation. And they said they had a plethora of land, especially in the West, of federally owned land. And they wanted to figure out a way to do something with that land to be able to find new housing. I would suggest that you put together a group of counties if Trump is elected and immediately go to Washington and say, let us take that land, let us harvest the timber from that land in a smart way, and then partition that land off for sale, let homeowners buy that land, and then give that money back to Washington, or if they give it to you, they give it to you. That to me would be something that I would look to do immediately. Our port could grow this city well and help the county a lot. When I was in office, John Herzog might remember, I had several meetings with Washington, the Corps of Engineers, about extending the port wall to the original plans of it. We went to Washington on that same Trump thing, that if they don't answer you within 30 days, call this guy in this office and he'll get him to call you. The next day, the Corps of Engineers from Portland called me the very next day and said, you won't believe it, but the plans for the extension of the original wall for the port are sitting on my desk right now. And you are number 2 in the nation to have that port wall worked on. I left that with you, all that information. I've left that with this board. Mr. Herzog was in those meetings. We actually had a public meeting here one day and they spoke to us in that public meeting. No one has ever gone forward with finding out about that. And I know those take years, but we're looking for future planning for this county. This thing for housing isn't going to happen tomorrow. It's going to probably take 3 years to get the federal government to, if they would, give us that land and be able to harvest that. But if it's done smartly, now you're looking at an annual residual income for the county in perpetuity, hopefully. But these are things that we need to do. But right now, our number one thing, the very first thing we said when we were sworn in as commissioners, and I believe that council takes a very similar oath, is to protect the public. We are here to protect and serve the public. It's written right on most police cars. I would implore you to tap the road fund for now. You've got a lot of things working. You've got private citizens working right now to find a way to fund the sheriff's department. And I can testify to that in front of you. There is a group working diligently to fund the sheriff's department and take some of the pain off of the budget. But for right now, you've got the county's attention. People are working. They're hopefully here to help you too. Fund the sheriff's department with some road funds and get some deputies on the road, because I'm hearing that John Ward is derelict in his duty. He's not doing his job. He calls me at 10:40 one night, tells me he's out on a call and asked me a question about something else, but he was on his way home from a call and wanted to ask me something. At 10:40 at night, our sheriff is not only running his department, he's out on road calls at 10, 11 o'clock at night or 4 in the morning. He's commanding a jail. He's doing all the other ancillary work that a sheriff does, going out of town to all these meetings. I mean, how much can this guy do? What more does he need to do? I hope you help him. I really do hope you help him. And yes, I am a friend of his. I call him my friend. but I think he deserves our help. Thank you.
And Chris, I just want to address a couple things you said. So what we're working on, well, first of all, you did give some ideas. I ran every one of those ideas into the ground of whether it was possible, what it would yield, what it would look like. And that was last time you spoke. In fact, Dave Barnes and I talked about some of those things. Some of the things that we're working on. So we have someone coming here next month that is a really good, puts us in a really good position to get our timber resources back. We're working on that diligently, and there are some things that we're going to implement and put in place to move that ball forward. I think that's, I mean, if we can get that back, that's a game changer for this county. So we are pushing that forward. I'm also looking at other ways to re-envision public safety in Curry County and what that might look like. And so we are working on solving the problem. We are working on those funding solutions. I don't know what Jay and John may have, but that's what I'm doing. And we did use 1.2 something out of the road funds. And I can tell you that all the time I was on the budget committee, not once did I ever hear we were close to $16 million in road fund reserves. And that's concerning, because if we go bankrupt, we won't provide any public safety. So,
Well, we all know, I believe we all know what'll happen if we go bankrupt. The governor will step into Curry County and she will do what she has to do to pay the bills. And it's gonna affect every one of us. So we
And-
need to understand what will happen if this
And-
county goes insolvent.
and we've got to do everything we can to avoid that.
What I want to say, though, and I will say this, when I was in office, I went to Washington 3 different times. Trump never, and I'm not promoting Donald Trump, so please don't give me the hate mail. Did I vote for him? Yeah, I did. But everything he told us was the truth. He did not extend, not one lie, not one fabrication. And he told the county commissioners at the NAFTA meeting, or not NAFTA, gosh, I can't think of them, huh? NACO. At the NACO meetings, he told every county commissioner, if you don't reach what you need in my office within 30 days, I want you to call, and I think his name was Nicholson. I don't recall for sure. I think his last name was Nicholson. I called him because it was 48 days. So I just said, I'm going to call him. The next day, the Corps called me. The next day it got done. So if this happens with this federal land, Trump is pushing to free up federal land. And everybody said, well, there's no federal land back east. No, but there's a lot of it out west.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to free up some of this federal land, clear the timber, and let's build homes. And that's what he has said. So
And that,
something for the future.
and that would work in conjunction with what we have planned and what we're bringing here in November and that project moving forward. Absolutely. And maybe that's a call I can make after November 5th.
And real quick, Chris, so, you know, I do want to point out a few things. We did put a levy up for public safety, which was more than had been done since 2014. We did put that in front of the voters for an option to vote. We did put a lot of work into that. We are very pro-public safety. We're not anti-John Ward or the sheriff. Right, but hear me out. But when cuts had to, we were at a point where we made cuts. We owned that, had to make cuts, that we felt that was our fiduciary responsibility. In some respects, we didn't have an option in the general fund, right? We were $2.1 million shy in the general fund. Those cuts had to be made up. There was no choice there. Now, what I will say is this, is that we didn't dictate how that money was spent. In fact, the words were, just give me the money and I'll figure it out. And that's what we did. And now we're trying to ask how that was, what was accomplished with that money. And I think that if you were prudent to government and you wanted to hold government to truth to power, you would be asking the government, how is that money being spent and what is being provided with the money that is being spent? That is simply what's being asked. Nobody's anti-John Ward, and somehow this has become an anti-John Ward narrative. And that's not the case. If simply asking questions on how a job is getting done is anti that person, That's not our fault. That's what you would expect of governance.
If I could respond to the
Of
letter.
course.
Okay, first of all, I don't know how you would expect people to spend almost $3 a thousand. I think if it would have been done at a lower number, you would have got a bigger response. But I want to say this, everyone worked at it. I never got one phone call, and I've offered myself to you guys anytime you need me. And I'm nobody important, but I know a lot of people. We could have put together a coalition of 100 or 200 people in blasted neighborhoods, knocking on doors like I did when I campaigned, and saying, sir, I want you to understand, do you think law enforcement's important? And the spiel, this is where we are, and this is what we need. And I want you to understand that if we put money in a special district, we don't get any of that money. If we raise taxes, we don't get that money. But if we do this way, the sheriff can get this money. If that would have been explained to people how it works, or not a special district, the other one, service district. If it would have been done in a service district, that would have made me feel really comfortable. The sheriff gets this money guaranteed. And if we would have put a group of people together door to door, as we talked about one time, let's go door to door and really push this. Even have the deputies go on corners and light it up in cities as well, and promote this with maybe some banners or something. We support this question on the ballot, and let the public know that everybody was on board with this. There was a lot more work I feel could have been done. Even a mailing, something, commercials.
We did mailings, we did the texting, we did all that, but I will say this, 100%. We own the failure, right? Because we were the ones who put it forth. And there are things that, when we did an after action, there are definitely things that we would take different tactics on, right? And I guess I was a bit naive because I thought that when we put this up, we were going to get flooded with support that was willing to go out and knock on doors. I didn't realize that we were going to have to go out and solicit the support.
Call on friends.
Well, and so there's a mistake, right? Those are definitely learning things.
And I'll tell you, Chris, I've done a lot in my law enforcement career, but I've never done a levy. I've never done that before. And so a lot of lessons learned there for me, and I made mistakes as well. And I would definitely not do the same thing again, that's for sure.
As far as the road fund goes, though, a few more million out of the road fund until the fix happens, and I know we said that 3 years ago.
We said that 7 years ago.
What I want to say to this Commissioner Alcorn is, you've been on the SWAT units. You know the danger.
6 left.
You know the danger that these deputies are out in the rural parts of this county, walking up on drug dealers and all this stuff. The marijuana grows, all this kind of stuff. You're sending deputies out into spots that it's really, really dangerous. And is that worth another 10 or 15 or 20% out of the road fund until we get a fix? Because if we don't get a fix, we're going to go insolvent anyway. We've got to get a fix.
And that's what keeps me awake at night right there, Chris. And I got to say, I would like to talk to the sheriff about creating a different MOU and different policies that relate to our supporting police agencies in our county, so that we never have a deputy in that situation, and our deputies know they stage at a location before they go in. We have an agreement with our other allied policing agencies that they can provide those resources. But I haven't been able to have that conversation, and I'd really like to. I'd really, really like to have that conversation.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Next up is Eric.
My name's Eric. I'm here just to bring to attention a couple of things that are going on. I already tried to get hold of your mayor, and she's like useless. And my point is this: there's a pond out at the mill. The pond is polluted. All of a sudden now, there's no water in the pond. There's been water in that pond. I did some research for 40 years, right? So I don't know how. My suspicions are the guy who's over there blocked the water from coming in. But I called DHQ a while back, and told them that the water was coming down low. Try to prevent the soil from showing, because when the soil shows, the wind blows, and there you go. So I called back to that guy, Don Hanson, who's another waste, and nobody seems to care. So I'm letting you guys know that the dirt in the pond is visible, and every time the wind blows, it's spreading around. That's the only reason I'm here.
All right, and you're talking about right up here,
Yeah, the old mill site.
the old mill site?
Yeah.
Okay, just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Okay. I didn't know anything about that, so.
Yeah, that's just, and the reason that I got lit is because I'm standing there in my place watching a school bus pull in there, and then I'm watching the wind blow and the dust from that going and hitting the kids. And I can't believe it that no one around here cares. Not one person cares. Okay, well, now you know. That's all I came for.
All right, thank you, Eric. Next up is Dave Barnes.
Dave Barnes. I don't have a lot to say. I echo a lot of what was said here tonight about disappointment of where we are as a county right now and the situation that we're in. I've heard somebody else say once before that somebody has to be the bigger person and put their hat in their hand and go and make an apology. If you guys really, really, really don't think that the way you've been acting towards the sheriff over the last couple of months is at all in any way wrong or anything else, I'd suggest you go back and look inside yourselves about that. Because from a lot of us out here in the audience, it has been. You've been pushing and asking for, he's out working, like other people have said, he's out working every day, and to compile the stuff and to do the stuff that you're asking for to entertain you guys with your questions, he's a job, You got rid of his director of operations when you got rid of the captain. He has a couple of department heads left over there, and he has a job to do. He doesn't have time to come in here and entertain your requests. That's all that I can think about that. You ran for, Commissioner Alcorn, you ran for office saying you're going to fund the sheriff's department. Didn't work with the levy. What's your next choice? What's plan B?
Yeah, Plan B. Plan B is reorganizing how law enforcement looks in this county, and I'm working on that with our police departments and having conversations with them about that. And Plan, I guess, C is what we're doing in November to get back our natural resources that this county had plenty of funding from, and to get those back, and also to protect our ocean and the resources that we have there. And also to explore other funding options as Plan D, such as putting forward to the people something that might work, something that they might be acceptable with. Those are the things that I'm working on, Dave.
Okay, thank you. I've heard briefly, and I've listened to a couple people talk about this thing from November, this Apache County idea of taking back control of the natural resources. Keena might be able to better comment on this, but in business school, we learned once an economy is gone from an area, that economy never comes back again. You look at a place like Detroit, that's fallen. You look at Pennsylvania, that used to have the steel mills. They've replaced their economies with other things. The manufacturing world, you used to drive down Route 95 along the East Coast, and you had all the textile mills in the Carolinas. They're all gone. They've been replaced with something else. The possibility of timber actually coming back here and being what it used to be, there's no mills left. There's none of the infrastructure left. It's just, I can understand what you're saying and what you're going for, and I'm just being a Johnny Raincloud on this, but in history, it just doesn't happen.
Well, what this county does have is a lot of timber, and what this nation has a need for is more houses and more timber. And the other thing is we have so much timber that the people here can't get insurance on their homes because they're at risk of wildfire, apparently, according to a state map. And so what we're working on is all of that, Dave, and reaping the financial benefits of that for this county and for our police officers.
Okay. I, good luck. That's all I can say at this point is good luck. But somebody's going to have to open the door. And, you and I texted about this a week or two ago. We went through an all-day long text about it. My position hasn't changed, and what I have to say hasn't changed about it. Until things change, there's, like the last person said, there's never going to be a relationship. So like Mr. Wilson was saying, it's done and over unless you make some changes. So you all know what that change has to be. Thank you.
Next up is Lynn Coker.
My name's Lynn Coker. Thanks very much for the commission doing what you have done over these last months in getting the BOEM effort stalled. That's a great first step in our efforts to protect our nearshore from wind turbine development. I'm coming tonight not just to say thank you, but I also want to raise some yellow flags that I believe appear on our path forward. The first yellow flag, and that has to do with the current administration, the Harris-Biden administration. To the extent that the current administration has the ability to keep the Interior Department pointed in the direction that they're headed, there will be no high-level change in the momentum behind the development of our southern Oregon coast. We will be pressed again, and we can count on that happening. And to put a figure on it in terms of how much we're playing with, we're looking at probably $100 billion that is being calculated to be involved with the development for our nearshore wind turbine projects. $100 billion floating around, and that catches a lot of people's attention. And we've seen that just with the buildup of the bidding and the bidders this last go-around. So the second yellow flag is a corollary, and that says that since our Oregon Secretary of State is reporting, even this last month, that our current governor, Governor Kotek, plus our South Coast Oregon State legislative representatives appear to be filling their campaign bank accounts with tens of thousands of dollars from offshore wind turbine developers. I've looked at those same spreadsheets as others have looked at, and it's tough to argue with the fact that tens of thousands of dollars have been deposited into those campaign accounts. So it's an appearance, I'm sure, but neither the feds nor the developers are going to stop passing out money in order to get politicians to listen to them and to act on their behalf. And considering the scale of money that is coming our way, that we are ill prepared to manage that successfully. So what's the best way to work with politicians in the midst of all this money flowing our way? What's the best way to work with the politicians when already, early in the game, we have appearance of impropriety? Appearance of impropriety. Well, I'm suggesting that we focus on transparency, enhancements of transparency, and accountability early in this process. And we've got one arm tied behind our back in doing that. Curry County can advocate for and support transparency by encouraging the Secretary of State to enhance the principal tool associated with reporting. ORSTAR is the premier mechanism for reporting on what happens financially with our candidates, with the donors, with the PACs that are making up and managing all this money. But that database and those tools are absolute failures when it comes to responsible taxpayers and citizens attempting to understand what's actually unfolding. It is a very unwieldy system, and given the fact that we're looking at $100 billion being focused coming into Curry County, we have to ask OSTAR to help us get greater transparency on who's bringing the money in that's shaping the campaign coffers and amenities associated with others. Without that, we have at least one arm tied behind our back in terms of accountability and transparency. The second thing we need to do is we need to build alliances from Curry County on up. We need to partner with advocacy groups, watchdog organizations, and other stakeholders who prioritize integrity in politics. There are national and regional organizations that we should button up with and seek to find out how other organizations, other locales and jurisdictions who have faced this bellwether amount of money coming their way, how did they be successful or not relative to ensuring that accountability and transparency was there? By creating those alliances, our voice gets bigger quicker, and we want to do that. And the third thing is to engage in a dialogue. I'm suggesting that Curry County can establish open communication channels with politicians within Oregon regarding payments they have accepted from wind turbine developers. We put the cards on the table. We understand these people. We've worked with these people for sometimes decades. Let's sit around the table. Why did you get tens of thousands of dollars? And we don't have an answer for that. So we need to bring them in, talk to them about that. It's not only in the community's best interest to understand what's unfolding, but the politicians themselves, whether it's COTEC or state legislators or anybody else, they need to understand that their careers can be enhanced by working with Curry County and others like us. I've used up my time, and I want to thank you very much.
Thanks for pointing that out, Lynn. All right, everyone here for the show cause hearing, bear with us. We'll get through this agenda and then get right into that next.
Oh, never mind. I thought you had one more.
Richard, you want to talk about the hearing, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So that is all of our public speakers. So we'll move into consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
And yes, motion passes 3-0. Discussion action items, we have none. Director of County Operations update.
Very good. Let's move on. Oh, sorry.
I actually do have something that I have to say. I wanted to provide a reminder to everyone. I serve as county counsel and have done so since October of 2022. Part of that job description is serving as the county risk manager. The job description says that the risk manager for the county reviews all claims against the county and takes appropriate action, including coordination with the county's insurance companies, defense attorneys. May receive reports of claim violations of county personnel rules. In order to provide the best protection for our county, my job requires complete cooperation from all county personnel. Open and frank disclosure and discussion regarding potential liabilities to the county is integral to defending it from liability. That was my primary function for a relatively short time. In February of 2023, I was invited to assume the role of Director of County Operations by the Commissioners, in addition to those duties, to address a multitude of issues. A big issue was the budget, due to the coming to an end of one-time funding windfalls that had been inappropriately incorporated into supporting day-to-day operations of numerous departments at this county. An example of this was how the county had come to depend on COVID money, which had dried up. This was a big task, which included a lot of modernization that allowed us to safeguard the county's ability to receive state and federal funds, upgrade and harden our computer networks, and in general, finding new and more efficient methods of administering the services the county provides. We've made a lot of headway, thanks to the discipline and ingenuity of our team. That includes everybody, elected, unelected, and the community. While we're still in the middle of this, we continue to be burdened by constrained finances. This is the biggest challenge we face, and it is going to be ongoing as it is affecting local governments across the country. As we continue to work toward the goals that were laid out by the commissioners in early 2023, there are some interim steps that we have taken to reduce costs to the taxpayers over the last year. One of the solutions available to us includes consolidating functions where possible. Our finance department estimates that we are currently on track to save over $600,000 this fiscal year if we continue with this strategy. We've come a long way, we've accomplished a lot, and we're starting to get some real traction. But we're going to need everyone's help and cooperation to get there. Thanks.
So, that was, yeah. So one thing that I want to bring up is I don't believe we have a policy. We may, I have not come across the policy, but I think it's due time. There was, and I'm going to use an example because I was reviewing some of the sheriff policy. I think it's called
Lexapol.
Lexapol. And I think there's one policy in there that I would like to maybe look at instituting countywide. And that is that each department head and or elected will themselves or delegate the responsibility of having continual communication with county counsel's office and retrieve records as needed. That way there's no confusion on who county council reaches out to when there's records that are requested or needed, and that point of contact can be consistent and reliable, and it's a good policy that is in Lexapol, and I think it's a good policy that we should adopt countywide.
Yeah, I'd support that policy. Maybe it would avoid some of what we're facing now. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
it's a good start.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's a great idea, but it exists right now in that Lexapol policy.
In Lexapol, but we do not have the same county policy. So I think that
Right.
it would be great to adopt that. So maybe that's something we can work on for future.
Anything else? All right, next up is elected official updates, and the only elected official here is Commissioner-elect Collinger. So, Patrick?
Stretch your legs.
Long meeting. Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to speak in the commissioner comments. As we know, we heard from a lot of folks tonight, and the sheriff's issue is still an ongoing issue. I'm very much business-minded. Numbers have to make sense in order to generate new ideas. We have to know stats. We have to know where the finances are in order to a lot of times come up with the ideas and new ideas that are needed to make change and become more efficient. We don't have that information. I don't know, and I don't know how the sheriff's office can come up with a new levy for a service district or a special district without being able to provide the public the information that we've been requesting for several months now. Some pretty, I would think pretty simple questions being asked, and definitely some tough questions being asked. But in order to move forward, we need to know the stats and we need to know the money in order to find out the best way to move forward. Needless to say, I'm a bit disappointed and frustrated, as I think all parties involved are. Having a sheriff's office that's only Monday through Friday, 8 to 6, is definitely frustrating. I live out in the county. That's my family's protection. So at nights and on weekends, I'm exposed. My business is exposed. What am I expected to do? This can all be very easily addressed with one conversation, as Mr. Brad Alcorn has asked for from the sheriff several times. Answer the questions. They're not hard questions. A lot of these are simple questions, and the fact that the questions aren't being asked lends me to believe, and others to believe, what's being hidden? Why can't these stats be released? Will it make you look bad? Will it make the office look bad? I don't know. Will it show a misuse of funding in certain departments within the office? I don't know. But it leads a lot more people to start speculating that. And that could stop with the conversation, with answers to the questions being asked. And the blatant ignoring of the Freedom of Information Act by the sheriff's office is pretty compelling to me. You have a duty as an elected official to come and answer to your constituents. These gentlemen up here, they're answering the tough questions. They're also asking the tough questions because these gentlemen up here are the ones that at the end of the day are responsible. It's the county that is liable and responsible. So I wanted to at least express that. I wanted to also mention that come January, I'll be sworn in and I'll be sitting up there. You're going to have another commissioner who is going to ask tough questions and be involved. And I want the checks and balances from every department as they're starting to request now from each department. There will be accountability, there will be integrity, so that will not change at all. I'm going to join them and I'm going to help get the answers for the people who voted me in. That's what they asked me to do. I'm going to do it. I want to ask a question to the Board of Commissioners. As a citizen, as a current citizen, and as commissioner-elect, honestly, I'm tired of waiting for a solution for public safety. My family is exposed, my business is exposed, my neighbors and other family members are exposed. When is the BOC going to escalate this to the next level and come up with a consolidation plan to enhance public safety in the county or its own funding solution? And to elaborate on that, with the failure of the levy, the county constituents have asked us to do more with less, to be more efficient with what we have, or the lack thereof. We have to show that we are doing everything that we can to do that before they would even consider passing another levy or service district or special district. All options have to be put out on the table first. It's time to escalate this situation. I'd like to know when that'll happen, my family, and many of the residents within this county as well. So that's my question to you guys. And one last thing. The Apache County resolution. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I'm pretty doggone optimistic about that happening. It's already happened in several other counties along the west. They're fruitful. They're being able to log, do timber, do other means within those federal lands to benefit their counties. We have a great opportunity to do the same, and I know it'll be a full court press come, in the next month and a half. It'll escalate once we continue to get the information that we need. People can be naysayers and don't think that can never return. These other counties have already proved those statements incorrect.
Well, I think
You
South Coast Lumber probably thinks they're still in business.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
People
you
not
can
building-
mobilize a mill very quickly, and these other counties have already proven that to be a success. So those are the only comments I make tonight. Just I say keep on pressing for the people. And you know what? You're going to have people who don't like it, don't want to answer the questions, want to hide. But what are they hiding? We're not hiding anything here. So keep up the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Thank you, Commissioner Alcorn and the board for allowing me the time. Just to point out, this week the county launched a new website. That includes the sheriff's office. We're included in that website rebuild. Over the last 3 weeks, myself and the other lieutenants at the sheriff's office have been working on our website. Being the most technologically savvy person there, a lot of my time has been dedicated to that. The new website does include contact information. It includes statistical information that is released weekly for dispatch calls and calls for service. So you're able to go onto our website. Those get posted by 5:30 p.m. every Monday now. It does take some time. We have an old CAD system, so it takes me about 2 or 3 hours to get all that information, but that is now available on our website.
Before you leave, Jeremy,
Question two.
regarding the statistical information that's on the website, I did look at that. I did have a conversation with our police departments about that, and quite frankly, it did make sense. So it would be nice to be able to sit down with the sheriff and go over those stats, because when I talked to the chiefs, there was quite a few questions about how those numbers were quantified with their, and they didn't make any sense at all to me. And I have done that job for a long time. So it would be great to sit down and have that conversation. I would love to do that. And maybe we could pull the chiefs in and have that conversation with them also. You had a question, Jay?
Two, a comment and a question. First off, excellent. Every new start is going to have bumps. So the start is the important part. So thank you for putting that out. I know one thing that would be extremely valuable for the public, and I'm not sure if it's included in this, is to have an electronic submission for criminal reports.
That is on our website.
Okay, perfect. Because one thing I know that people were struggling with is how to turn in the reports.
The biggest struggle we had this week was with the changeover. That didn't follow suit. So a lot of people couldn't access that. We've gotten that fixed today. So you can submit your criminal reports, your records requests, and it's all electronic.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Please, reach out to the sheriff. You can reach out to me as well, and we can try and set that meeting up to be able to quantify those numbers.
Yeah, and there are numbers that the public wants too. There are questions that the public has that I think we could include on the website that would be really beneficial for them. But I agree with what Jay said. I applaud the effort, and it's very, very well. We need it, and people are asking for it. So, but they're also asking for some very specific things that I think we can do.
And I don't have the capacity or the ability to discuss those at a meeting.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it clear that
Yep.
it is out there.
Thank you for that.
Website.
But I do think that if we're going to be publishing stats,
They need to be correct.
they need to be accurate.
Yeah.
Those aren't accurate, so we need to fix that.
Yeah, because those are going to impact potential future funding solutions.
I would ask that any questions of accuracy, please send those our way, because those are the stats we are getting from our
CAD?
system.
Okay,
Okay.
we will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last on the agenda is Commissioner updates. Commissioner Herzog?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. All right. Commissioner Trost?
Oh, you're not so fortunate. I have something to say.
just going to make these people
I am so sorry.
Turn up the AC.
Yes, that can be done. So, here's the thing. So this issue has been plaguing our ability to essentially look for options and move forward. If we don't know where we currently stand, or we don't know what we're currently doing, or we don't know what services we're currently providing, then we don't know exactly how to go out and look what funding the funding solutions, right? And so, in one hand, we're being told, hey, public safety is priority number one. And in the other hand, we're being told, but you're not allowed to ask any questions about public safety. And so, my thing is this. Yes, public safety is paramount. In my philosophy, and I will just share my philosophy, is that a healthy community requires three solid pillars: public safety, education, and healthcare. When you have those three pillars, you can attract people to your community. When one of those pillars is removed, it is very difficult to attract people to your community. Professionals in general, too. And so, yes, it is an absolute priority. And hence why we are so adamant about trying to figure out how to move it forward. Now, these things that we're doing can be either identified as an obstacle or an opportunity. right? It can be something that I gotta go do or something that I get to go do. I can get to go inform the public about the scenarios that we're dealing with on a daily basis and give them the information that they better understand so that when a funding solution presents itself next time, they're fully equipped with the information needed to make that decision. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And we're being told that we're doing the wrong thing by accomplishing it. And so it's so backwards in my mind, because that is the true intention. And the reality is, we're still showing up. We're still asking for that communication. We can't force it. Right? So we're being asked to make all the concessions. We're being asked to make all the changes. But we're the ones who are still here. We're the ones that are still looking to communicate. So I don't know what else we can be doing. Because the one thing that I won't do is stop communicating. Because that's what is expected. But I want to be able, and I think all of us, we want to be able to communicate what's right. And we all want to find a solution to this issue. I live in the county as well. I want to know, and not just people who live in the county, but those folks who live in the cities who are used to having backup by deputies to their officers. Those are the mutual aid agreements that we're asking about, how those are moving forward. And so, it is immensely frustrating, and I understand, and I'm glad that there's the Citizens for Curry County Sheriff group together. But what I would ask is this: how much closer are you bringing us to a solution by coming in here and doing that? Doing what happened today? I've gotten numerous emails saying, yes, please continue to try to get this information. Yes, please, I want to know how we're being protected. Yes, I want to know if I call, if it's going to be responded to. Yes, I want to know those things. Please don't stop asking those questions. But at no point in time do I ever ask them to come in here to create another issue by saying, it's my turn to be their voice. It's my job to be their voice. I don't try to solicit them to come in here to make a statement to try to, rile up more bad will or ill feelings. That's not productive. And so yes, I am publicly, Sheriff, if you'd like to speak, we can speak anytime you want, wherever you want, however you want. Please, I would love to be able to move this thing forward. We will have a standing agenda item for the Sheriff's update on public safety from this point forward. To allow that opportunity, if you'd like to use it publicly, you can use it however you would like to. You can come in and talk to about the public about whatever you would like to. If you want to come in and just talk bad about us, you can do that. But at least come talk to the people, because they deserve that. Not just the people who are in a close circle. So that's my thing. Now, I have one more thing, sorry. I had a meeting today with our Regional Solutions group. So Regional Solutions is a group by the governor to essentially try to identify areas of concern regarding our communities in the southern region. The three initiatives are housing, infrastructure, and community resilience are the issues that are being tasked. And I think in order to be able to do this correctly, I'm one of only a couple. I think there's one other Curry County representative on Regional Solutions. I would like this group's consensus, if you will, to start to coordinate some more community leadership type meetings. Maybe it's a workshop to bring in our other community leaders so we can get their information on how they view the needs or how solutions for housing, infrastructure, and community resilience. Because the reality is, in terms of infrastructure in the county, our main infrastructure pieces are the services we provide and the roads that we build. Those are essentially the infrastructure.
So roads are important.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But so, having, the cities have utility infrastructures and huge, large-scale infrastructures that impact housing dramatically. And so I think it's important that we bring some of those folks in, because if they're not have a voice at the table, I can't reflect what their needs are accurately. So
The consensus for me is yes. I mean, I think that's.
we can set up a workshop
Yeah.
maybe in the
Yeah.
near future to discuss that?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I say that you should be commended on your patience tonight, the way you were being lambasted? It's tough. It's tough for me to sit here and listen to it. But at the same time, we've been patient too, right?
You've been extremely
guys have been
patient,
really
and I feel terrible
you.
about having to drag this on and have these
Yeah.
conversations, but I only
If
get to
you'll
have
be-
them every 2 weeks.
If
so-
you'll be quiet, I'll go next. We'll be done.
Okay, I'm done.
All right.
Oh,
Are you done?
wait, no. On,
Oh, my God.
Where is that dog?
I apologize. I want to address Commissioner-elect Hollinger's request for action, what that action looks like.
Yeah.
And here's the reality. We are nearing on our budget season. And we have to start gear. The one failure that we've had is in the past we were late to the game because we didn't even know the budget, right? If people don't understand, prior to this May, our books were 2 fiscal years behind in reconciliation. The county had no solid understanding of where we were financially. We were spending money without actually knowing where our floor was. That's when we learned where we were with our road dollars and et cetera.
We were assured that we had $26 million in the road funds. We have 17.
So we have, this year, we have the opportunity, the responsibility. The books are solid, the books are clean, right? The books are up to date.
Thank you, Keena.
Thank you, Keena. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ida. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone, for that work. So, but what I will say is this, that what you're asking for needs now, we have to get to that point, right? It's been since July 29th that we have been able to have conversations with arguably one of the most important other electeds in discussing budget. And actually the sheriff's budget is 70-some% of our budget.
It's larger than the remaining budget that
The rest of the
departments handle.
So if we're not able to have conversations about how we're going to move forward with the individual who's responsible for that budget, we have to still have those. That's why I was saying we have to move forward. I would much rather make decisions with the information than not the information. But at the end of the day, at some point, we still have to make the decision and move forward with the information we have or don't have. And so I think it is prudent, as Commissioner-elect said, that we start looking at, we need to start having a workshop. We need to start looking at, do we need to do some supplementals before the end of the year? We need to start addressing those supplementals. We need to start looking at what we're going to do, because we can't get to March and then have to figure out a plan then. We need to have a plan to provide our staff the ability to budget responsibly, but we got to have those numbers. We got to have that plan. And I would say we need to start that plan yesterday. We need to get it going ASAP. And if the funding solution, if it's a funding solution, if it's a consolidation, if it's a transfer, whatever the plan is, we need to figure it out. We need to get our heads around it, because regardless of what it is, it's going to take an enormous amount of communication and collaboration, especially if it's something along the lines of condensing down and outsourcing some of these special, some of these duties. That's going to require other areas to be able to get on board and agree with those things before we can even move forward.
Time sensitive, I agree.
100% time sensitive. And so with that, the last thing I would ask is the two of you were tasked to start discussions on the school resource officer, which apparently was,
I'm going to talk about that.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm done. You're I'm done.
Do you have anything else, Jay? Anything at all?
Done.
Recipes? Anything?
Okay.
Done.
All right. So regarding, it's my turn now, right? Okay. So I go last, folks, so please bear with me. Regarding Commissioner-elect Hollinger's request for WIN, Patrick, I can't give you a firm date, but what I can tell you is that regarding consolidation, I'm exploring every option, narrowing those options down, and I've been having conversations with our police departments regarding that, and actually have made some pretty good progress towards that. So I hope to be able to either have a workshop or have some type of presentation in the near future, because that's one of those pieces that we learned through the levy people were asking about. And it's also something that what you just said, Jay, that needs to be in place before we get further into next year. So that's happening. Regarding the SRO, so it was brought to my attention, there was through social media and through some people reaching out directly to me that there was an incident at Gold Beach High School. Gold Beach PD does a great job. They responded to it. I don't have any direct knowledge or information about that, but what I do have information about is the school resource officer position that had been discussed that Commissioner Trost had mentioned. So we have opioid money that has not been used by the sheriff's office, and we made some recommendations. They chose not to use that money. So I had started some conversations with Gold Beach PD, and they indicated that they do want to use it and would be willing to use it towards a school resource officer. And I met with them. When did we meet with them, Ted? This last week. We met with them last week. And we have some firm numbers on that now, and I shared those numbers with Keena. It looks like we'll be able to do that, and we'll be moving forward with some type of an MOU or long-term agreement with Gold Beach PD to get that school resource officer up and running. And that will be not just for the Gold Beach area, but that's also going to service North County as well. And we'll work with our South County school resource officer in Brookings. So it's I guess it's really the first step towards consolidating those efforts. So that's really positive. The numbers look good. It looks like we're going to be able to do that, and hopefully we can get it on the next agenda, and that would be great. The last thing I have is, and I want to leave on a positive high note until we go into the next meeting. So Gold Beach Main Street, have you guys heard of them? Gold Beach Main Street, they're hosting an event this weekend. It's the Legends Festival. It's at our fairgrounds. It's Friday and Saturday. There'll be bands, there'll be food, there'll be vendors. It's going to be a really good community event. And I've seen some of the advertisements and stuff. It looks really good. It's $15 and kids are free. And Patrick, you have some more info on that?
I'll be in the dunk tank Saturday night, so come donate and throw some balls at me. And,
All right.
Get me wet and expose me to hypothermia.
All right. So that should be a really good community event, and I just wanted to draw some attention to it because we need more of that right now, for sure. So that's all I have. I'm going to close the Board of Commissioners business meeting, and
So we don't have time to talk about any of my recipes?
no. Is everybody ready for a show of cause hearing? Okay. All right. So our Board of Commissioner meeting is closed, and now we will open our show of cause hearing. This is a show of cause hearing before the Board of Commissioners conducted pursuant to Curry County Code Section 6.01.050, parentheses 1. The code violations including, but not limited to, the Curry County Code Section 6.01.030, parentheses 1, parentheses B, 6.01.030, parentheses 1, parentheses E, 6.01.030, parentheses 1, parentheses F, and 6.01.030, parentheses 1, parentheses G. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
And yes, motion passes 3-0. It is October 2nd, and it is 7:59 hours. So, statement from property owner at 18835 Montebello Lane, Brookings.
Montbretia.
Mount Brescia, I'm sorry. Long night.
Or Mont.
Bear with me. So we've had some statements, we've had a presentation of information, and I have quite a package of information here in front of me, which includes photos, et cetera. So, Ted, do we want to go over where we are?
I can go over it
today?
briefly, basically where I can, if you see in your packets before you, this is the evidence. I don't believe that the landowner, Mr. Haas, is present. Is he present he's not. Okay, Mr. Haas sent a letter, stating that he was not given sufficient time to respond. He did not receive 30 days' notice. I do not see any 30-day notice requirement in our code for this. A landowner is required to appear and respond. He makes various assertions in his letter, says that someone else put that, put the material out on his property, and he has a very complex life, and he is out of town buying a flea market and unable to come. So all of those don't really resonate with the issue before us, which is evidenced by, if you notice your orange page here, we've got email and photographs from our building official, Garrett Thompson, who went to the site yesterday. So that is a very fresh and current report, which is one of the things that we were talking about earlier. And you can see that the issues complained of are still ongoing on the site. There are numerous vehicles. There are people living on site. People are claiming they're going to leave. The fact is that property is not. It's not cleared for any sort of residence, so all of that is a violation, an immediate violation. This has been ongoing for over a year at least, for a long time. And then as we go through, we see the Mr. Thompson's submission. He says, I stopped by at 18835 Montbretia Lane to do a site investigation for illegally built structures and structures being illegally occupied. At the time of my visit, only the main dwelling and one recreational vehicle were being occupied. I made contact with the owner of the RV, who stated the RV and his possessions would be gone by the end of the week. The RV owner also stated that the owner of the property was out of state at the time of inspection. An old mobile home and an additional RV were on site but did not appear to be lived in. Additional photos can be found at code enforcement website. So we look at that, then we go on to the next one. We see documentation regarding rodent infestation. That is the one based October 1st here. And there are numerous pictures of the rats in the neighboring dwellings, adjacent properties there's damage being done. There's when they start eating the Vaseline, it's a bad sign. Yeah, they're getting real hungry, and they're going to be coming to your house in getting serious. And let's see, we have I referred to the letter from Robert Haas regarding his excuses for that. And then we have the complaint and photographs from Mr. Sasenka, and then we have complaint and photographs from Wickstrom and Anderson. I believe you reviewed most of those previously, and then the letter filed with court and correspondence from DEQ and Haas. The problem clearly was not remedied by DEQ's involvement. A warning didn't work. The problem has compounded, and it is still ongoing, and so. Your choices, you have, if we go to I can go through the code with you if you'd like, if you have any other questions about the evidence.
So before we get to that, Richard, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I'd like
And-
to hand those out.
I want to hand these out. I want to add something to the
Thank you.
thing.
Violations.
Thank you. And before I start, I want to say, you guys do a good job and keep asking the questions.
Thank you.
By the way, this has been bugging me ever since your sign got knocked over, Commissioner.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you for looking out for John. No one else does.
He doesn't say much.
So I'm going to add 3 more sections to this, because I think you sort of missed a couple. The cars, the mattresses, the breeding ground, and the unsafe structures.
In other words, yeah, to the violations.
Right.
The list of violations.
So we do have number 1 on our code violations,
Yep.
601.030 subsection 1, subsection B. Oh, you have subsection 2. Okay, all right.
Which is the mattresses.
Yeah, you have 2B, 2C, and then 1G.
And then on number 2 is the number of vehicles, which are basically breeding grounds for rats. And our neighbor here has a car in the garage in the next door to his house, and his electrical has been eaten by rats, which is gonna be expensive to get that car.
I don't know whether your building inspector really did a full walk around.
Oh, yeah.
The north side of his property is full of cars. There are at least,
We got a lot of
12
pictures, a
cars
lot
on
of
his
pictures. There's a
property.
lot of cars. Look like a car lot.
yeah,
I think
Well, we
Eric
got-
said 15, didn't he?
A whole packet of pictures.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of cars on
The
that.
third one is the unsafe structures, which you sort of touched on. But there, I don't think there's any, if you look at the building code and you look at that lot, there's just violations all over the place.
Yep.
We got that one on here.
Yeah, you got the letter, I think, from one of the neighbors who's, anyway, somebody who went to rent. He was trying
Yeah,
to rent
yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you read that letter?
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, that letter was really enlightening.
That remodeled mobile home? Yeah.
There was no septic.
So with all
Yeah,
the violations
garden
on
hose.
this property, I think the county should issue an order to rebate the nuisance, which includes the above allegations plus the ones you have already. And if the owner fails to perform, the county should remove the nuisances and collect the cost of the removal through a lien on the property. So that's our objective.
Yeah, I mean, what is the next step?
Well, the cleanup is what we were hoping for. We want to be good neighbors too. But just let me say that you got a robust 2 sides of a fire triangle in there. I'm talking combustible materials like you can't believe that have just been discarded. All they need is an itty-bitty spark, which happened in February. We were lucky because of Cape Ferrello and those professionals that came in there and knocked that baby down.
We're
Thanks to
lucky
Don.
you just happened to be
Good thing
walking
Don
by.
noticed it. But anyway, we're genuinely scared. And I worked in fire prevention for 25 years, and I'm scared.
Yeah.
I've seen it all, and we got a guy that's giving the middle finger to the whole county over there. He doesn't care about us. The fact that the letter that the gal that looked at the mobile home to possibly rent it, his comments within that letter, and that was notarized, that says it all about his opinion towards us, that we're the enemy, we're the
Yeah.
ones that are bringing this misfortune upon us.
Ted, what is the next step?
The next step is essentially that would be.
Well, this is where, on the agenda, we deliberate this, right? And where we discuss it and make some observations and come up with that next step. So I can tell you that for me, I've heard your complaints. I'm also afraid for you. The fire hazard is concerning, to say the least. With Garrett going out there, Garrett Thompson going out there, that's, in my opinion, independent corroboration of the complaints. It's very strong,
100%.
very strong evidence of corroborating everything you guys have said. That's my opinion, that's my observations of what we have in front of us, and I would support taking some action.
So, I'm very much I believe in people's personal property rights. I'm a strong believer in people's personal property rights. And however, when the abuse of your property rights infringes on the health, safety, and welfare of the people around you, then somebody has to be able to step in to protect those people as well. And so I've seen more than enough evidence. It seems more than nuisance. It seems hazardous. And so, I mean, what I would support is abating the property with essentially the most demanding time frame that we can offer. I don't know what that is.
It's 30 days. It says that the board shall conduct a public hearing on the question of the existence of the alleged nuisance, and if the board finds that a nuisance exists, it shall declare the existence of the nuisance by order entered in its journal. Then there are a variety of options after that. It says it may order a suit to be brought in the name of the county, institute injunction, abatement, or any other proceeding provided by law to prevent temporarily or permanently the existence of the nuisance. Or it also says alternative abatement procedure in lieu of and not in addition to the remedies provided above, and this is what I would recommend that we go for first. Where the board finds that a nuisance exists and declares the existence of a nuisance by order, if the owner or occupant of the property fails to abate the nuisance within 30 days after the entry of the order, so the order would need to say the order or that the nuisance be abated within 30 days of the entry of the order, the board may cause the nuisance to be abated, and that would be the board would then enter onto the property and remove the hazard.
That sounds like the fastest.
You could do either way, but the first step is order the nuisance abated.
So that's what I would support.
Me too.
Me too.
So
Then
then,
we need to add these, Ted, these?
nope, just the abatement itself, right?
Yeah.
So, not to prolong this,
Can I ask a question?
certainly.
Does your abatement list what he has to remove or anything like that?
Yeah, what do you tell, yeah.
We'll cite all the relevant code violations in that, and then it needs to well, first of all, among the violations are the occupation of the property for one thing, but then all the refuse and hazardous materials and illegal buildings need to be abated and removed
Well,
within 30 days.
so what I would say is that I would move that we move forward with an abatement to be executed within 30 days of it being recorded, pursuant to all sections of 6.0.1.030 and all following subsections, along with and all following subsections.
Okay, that's your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
And when is it likely
Yes.
to be recorded?
And yes, motion passes 3-0.
Will be recorded tomorrow.
Okay, and so the 30 days would start
Right,
ticking tomorrow.
we'll draw it up and record it tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
So that motion passed 3-0?
The subsections or the additional sections that Richard was.
Right, so there's subsection 1, and then there's subsections of 1, and then there's subsection 2, and there's subsections of 2. So this is encompassing all of the subsections under the section of 6.0.1 or 601.030 and all subsequent subsections. Yes.
So we've got the motion's been made, the motion passed, right? You guys have been extremely patient tonight. So before I close this, hearing, does any one of you want to make a statement before I close it?
You can exhale now, thank you. You know, it feels like.
Is that cooler working a little bit better? Did they turn it up actually? Did it work?
I went to go use the bathroom and I don't even recognize that person, it looked like a tomato.
All right.
Yeah, it got a little hot up here too.
I'm sorry, I gotta go. I've got people waiting.
Yep, no, drive safe.
You guys were getting pummeled verbally, and thank you.
So it's 8:15, and I will close this hearing and conclude everything. Thank you for your patience.